Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to continue on with our look at the Mondo 1/6 scale Masters of the Universe action figures with another fan favorite, one of my personal favorite characters, Scareglow. That is right. This one was a surprise sale. They put this thing up without any prior announcements for sale on Halloween, so it was one of those really cool, just surprise figures that we didn't even know was coming, and I was able to grab one when it went on sale. I've had it for a while, and I'm finally going to open it up and get a good look at it. So just like all the other villains in the line, Scareglow does come with that same Snake Mountain slipcover there. Again, very bright, very colorful artwork, which I really love. And then when we remove that slipcover, it reveals the box underneath, which has got this great, almost glowing green look to the artwork there on the front. I love how all of the boxes have a different color. So every character's color is different. It's pretty neat. When you flip that around, you get the full color artwork of Scareglow, which has got that great glowing effect to his bones. Really, really cool stuff. So again, we've got the magnetic flaps on the side of the box, just like all the others. And when we fold that open, you can see our figure and all of his accessories in the window box over here on the right. And then over here on the left, we even have a little bio for the Scareglow character. So why don't we go ahead and get this guy pulled out of the box and take a look at everything that's included. All right, we've got Scareglow outside of the packaging, so we can go ahead and take a closer look at him. Of course, as mentioned, this is a 1/6 scale Masters of the Universe toy line, so if I put the tape measure right in here with the figure, you can see he stands right there at about the full 12-inch mark, exactly as we would expect. And since we've seen several of the other figures in this line, we knew what we were getting, right? But this is such a great fan favorite character, and he's again an easier one to do considering some of the figures that Mondo has already put out. So we've got some parts reuse here, but also we've got some really cool new stuff going on as well. And man, anytime we get a new toy of Scareglow, I'm excited because, like I said, he was one of my personal favorites when I was a kid. So let's go ahead and get in there and start taking a look at the details on this guy. We'll go ahead and start things off by looking at that head sculpt with that very, very cool, very realistic looking skull that they've got going on. It is similar to what we saw with Skeletor, but if you remember, Skeletor basically just kind of had the front part of his skull sculpted because it was inset into the hood. So this here is entirely new. This is like a full-on skull head sculpt here, which is really, really neat. You can see there's some great textures in there that bring out that bone-like look. You've got the signature crack in the top of the skull there, just like on the vintage Scareglow action figure. We even have some nice glowing red eyes on there. I love almost like the fang-like teeth right here, which looks very cool. And he also does have an articulated jaw. I love that we've got that aspect going on there. Now, the rest of the figure does fall in line very much with the way that the vintage toy was done, where all of the bones are painted on a muscular body. And that's good. In my opinion, that's exactly how Scareglow should look, since that's what the vintage toy did. So I do want to kind of talk about the way that these bones are painted, because you can see that he is mostly a black body with the it's a good bone-ish color. All the bones are just painted on there. They are painted. But what I want to do right now is I actually want to bring in my vintage Scareglow action figure to put them side by side, because there was one big difference with this that I noticed right away. You see, with the vintage Scareglow figure, the legs and the arms are mostly all white, and then there's some black painted on the front around the bones. That really stands out because on the new figure from Mondo, you can see that the arms and the legs are completely black with the bones painted on the front. And that does give him a bit of a different look. Now, I totally understand why they went that route. They did kind of go for more just the straight bones look. This might have just been a limitation of the time from Mattel, because they cast, of course, the entire arm and the entire leg in a glow-in-the-dark plastic. But since this has always been such the iconic look for Scareglow, that did stand out to me, and I felt like it was worth pointing out. I'm not saying it's a bad thing by any means, but if any of you collected the old line and looked at this and thought something felt a little off, I bet that's it, because that's exactly what I did there. There's something interesting, though, that is worth pointing out, and this is going to really show when we get to the glow-in-the-dark feature on this, but the hands and the feet are molded in glow-in-the-dark plastic, much like the vintage action figure. As far as I can tell, that's the only parts on here that are actually made of glow-in-the-dark plastic. The bones on the body and then the skull are just painted with a glow-in-the-dark paint. He does have the same kind of furry loincloth that Skeletor has underneath his little harness that he's wearing, and it's done in a nice purple and black color scheme. And the bracers are also very nice looking with a nice purple look. It's got some nice silver kind of scratches and wear and tear on there. And then one of my favorite aspects on this figure is his cape. So he does have the collar up top, just like on the vintage toy. It comes out of the box a little wrinkled. You can see how it's kind of folded, but that's all right. I would imagine a character like this would definitely have a bit of a disheveled look to his cape. But this is really cool because it's this really nice silky feeling material. And you can see the outside is a dark purple and the inside is a lighter purple. And it's got this really cool silky shine to it. But in addition to that, it is a wired cape. So look at this. You've got these posable wires all the way around the outside and the bottom of the cape. So that is done differently than, say, Skeletor's cape, which was just cloth and would like fold over him and lay down, because this allows you to get some very cool ghostly poses with the cape almost looking like it's flowing behind him. I love that. Also, there's a real metal chain around the neck there. So really cool stuff. The cape is absolutely one of my favorite parts of this figure. So why don't we go ahead and break down the articulation on this guy in case you have not seen any of these yet. I already mentioned the jaw moving, but in addition to that, that head is on a ball joint, so it can roll all the way around, move side to side. By the way, this guy is the only figure I've gotten so far that does not come with an interchangeable head, but the head does still pop off at the ball joint, which is how you're going to remove the cape or put the cape on the figure, so that is worth noting there. The arms are ball jointed at the shoulders, so the arms can go outwards, forwards and backwards. You got the swivels at the bicep. You got the bend at the elbow with good range of motion. You got those ball joints at the wrist so they can swivel around. You got the hinges on there as well. The ball joint is there at the midsection as well as at the torso. So you can see definitely twist side to side, but you do get a little bit of rolling motion. In fact, you can see that you can pop it off the ball joint. It actually locks on there nice and solid though, so that is definitely done by design, and it's not loose or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about it falling apart. You got the ball joints at the thighs there, so the legs can spin all the way around. You do have double joints at the knees, which are very, very tight, which I've seen has been the case on most all of these figures from Mondo, so that's really good. You can also swivel there side to side at the knee, and then the ankles are jointed there, so you can kind of move the feet side to side, slightly move them up and down as well. They are hindered a little bit by the bracers around the shins, but it's not so bad. Basically on par with all of the other figures in the Mondo line so far. By the way, the figure does stand really good on his own, just like I've noticed with all of these figures in the line, but he does come with an additional stand. It's just like all of the other cradle stands with all of the other figures, so if you want to, you can stand the figure on there for a little bit of extra sturdiness, especially if you're planning to keep him displayed inside of a display case. So aside from that figure stand, Scareglow does come with a slew of extra accessories, much like all of these figures from Mondo. I mentioned that he does not have an interchangeable head, but he does come with interchangeable hands. So he comes out of the package with his fists. He also has 2 gripping hands, and he's got these very cool open hands, which are in these very creepy poses, which is so perfect for a character like Scareglow. So let's go ahead and pop these off just to show you there. It's just on a little peg, so you can easily pull the hands off. You can take the new hands, pop them on in place. So we'll put a gripping hand over on that side. We're going to go ahead and put one of the open hands over on this side, and that way we can kind of change the look of the poses of our Scareglow. Look at that. I love that already. All right, so a few different accessories. First of all, Scareglow comes with 2 of the Crossbones swords. So this is the exact same Crossbones sword that came with Skeletor. It is just painted in a different color. This is not something that's typical for Scareglow. So this is the first time he's ever come with sword accessories, but it's still really cool. Obviously the bone motif fits with the character, and you could have him double wielding swords. So if you want something a little better for close combat for your Scareglow, you've got the option to display him with these swords. A favorite accessory of mine is this bad boy right here. So this comes straight out of the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line. It was something that was created for the Scareglow character in that line. Basically what this is, this little holster here, it's like a rod that houses the key to Castle Grayskull. And you can see there's a beautiful Castle Grayskull sculpted on top of it. There's a real metal chain and a wrist bracer. So in order to put this on the figure, you'll actually need to pop off one of the hands. You can slide that bracer right there around his wrist. We can pop the hand back on. And then, look, with that open hand, you can get him to hold onto this thing. So the whole story with that, if you're not already aware, the story was that, you know, Scareglow is a cursed character. He was one of those characters who was trying to gain access to Castle Grayskull, and part of his curse is that he is forever chained to the one thing that he most desired, hence the key to Castle Grayskull, but he can never open this and use it. So it's one of those things where he's just always bound and tied to the thing he desired most, and he can't even use it. So it's one of those kind of cruel punishment things. So it's really neat that they included that with this, because it has sort of become part of this character. And what's even cooler about that is you can remove the top here. You can see that. You can pop the Castle Grayskull off, and hidden inside of this thing, if I could get it out now, there we go, hidden inside is an actual key, and it's a very cool sculpt. You can see it's got like the little skull on the top there. It's a skeleton key. So yeah, so that actually is inside. You can actually place it right there inside, and you can place that in his hand, and he is forever chained to the one thing he desired most, and he can never use it. So pretty cool stuff. Then of course there's the accessory that you would probably expect Scareglow to come with. His vintage toy came with a halberd. This is graduated into a full-on scythe, like death style. But this is very cool. You can see I love the design of this thing, looking like it's made out of bones. It's got wraps on it. You can see that there's like this very rusted look to the actual blade at the top, and of course you can have him hold onto the handle on that any way you want to, and it is just a really cool accessory for the character. And you pair that up with the little Castle Grayskull chain to his wrist, the flowing cape, you can get some pretty cool poses out of this guy. Okay, so now we're at the part of the video that you've all been waiting to see. Let's turn off the lights and check out that glow-in-the-dark action feature. So I mentioned that the hands and the feet were made of glow-in-the-dark plastic, and when you look at them glowing, you can tell that because they do glow a lot brighter than all of the painted parts. The painted glow does seem to work pretty good. It is a little brighter the way my camera captured it. To the naked eye, it may not glow quite as bright. You'll definitely notice the difference in the hands and the feet, but it still glows pretty nice, and it's awesome that they included that feature here. And just to show the comparison, here is the Mondo version glowing next to the vintage toy glowing, just for some maximum scare glow effect. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at Mondo's 1/6 scale Masters of the Universe Scareglow. This is seriously one of my favorite figures in this line so far. I think Merman might be my favorite, but Scareglow is right there. Like I said, he's always been one of my favorite characters, and they made a really fun toy here. That posable cape is awesome. I had so much fun kind of posing that around and taking pictures of him, so that is definitely a highlight of this particular figure. Now, this particular figure, as I mentioned, was sold exclusively through Mondo's website. It was like a surprise sale for Halloween. So at this point, I think he's going to be a little harder to track down. I'm not even sure how easy he'll be able to be found on the aftermarket, but definitely see if you can seek him out if he looks like one you want to add to your collection. These figures do usually run around the $160 price point.